Welcome back to the Brother Chris Violence's Traveling Damnation show here on Metal World Radio. Tonight I have a very special guest for you, Katon of the band Hirax. How you doing tonight, Katon?
I'm doing awesome, man. Just here in Los Angeles working on the new album and getting ready for upcoming tours. How you doing?
Really good, man. Really good. I don't know if you remember, you and I had played many moons ago on the Seattle Metal Fest, somewhere around 2005. And
yeah, that's almost 10 years now.
I know, man. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
It goes by fast, man.
It does, man. And you guys are just more busy than you've ever been. I mean, just playing constantly. Albums are coming out regularly, which is really bitchin'. Your latest, Immortal Legacy, is, I think, one of your best albums. Certainly the sound quality is through the roof. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks for the compliment. Well, the album was mixed and produced by Bill Matoyer. He's obviously, a lot of people have heard him. He's worked with Slayer, Wasp, Savage Grace, Armored Saint, just tons of bands. I mean, sometimes there's so many bands I make a few mistakes because he's worked with pretty much everybody in the heavy metal / thrash metal scene. DRICOC, the list just goes. Sacred Reich, I mean, the list, Slayer, obviously, the list goes on and on. So, and he had worked with us back in the early 80s, back around 85, 86. And when we sat down and started talking about producers, he was on our short list. We had Jeff Waters from Annihilator. He's a really good producer. We were talking about him, and we're also talking about a guy named Andy Sneap, who's pretty well known. He's worked with Testament, Creator, tons of bands. But the thing that was great about Bill was, for one, we have known him for a long time, and we know what he's capable of. He's a great producer, and it was just, it's just a good vibe. And also, it was great that he was local because, easier for us to travel inside of California to do the album. So, logistically, that was a smart move. And then his talent, bringing him to the table to do this record was probably the smartest thing we could have done, and it worked out great. And, just we had some things that we never done before. We had some special guests on the record. We had Jim Durkin from Dark Angel play on some of the tracks. We had Juan Garcia from Agent Steel play on some of the tracks. And we had Rocky George from Suicidal Tendencies fame. He played on some of the tracks. So it was, just a awesome record to be a part of, and also to bring in these guys that we respected so much.
Absolutely, man. And all those bands you just named, that's the heart of the original thrash metal scene that started when you guys started up.
Yeah, it was like kind of just bringing a bunch of buddies back together because we'd all played shows together or been to shows hanging out with each other. And so it was really cool to bring guys that were from around the Los Angeles thrash scene together. And it was like just like old friends, and it was a lot of camaraderie. It was great to do, And, we're real proud of the record, and it's still selling really well. It's still pretty new, and, even though with it being so new, like I said, we're already starting to work on the new one because we've got next year coming up, 2015 will be here before everybody realizes it, So you got to keep moving, you got to keep, producing quality music, and that's our main goal is to, keep putting out kick-ass records and then go on tour, because that's really the thing that we love the most, is going on the road and seeing all the fans.
Absolutely. So, and you guys have been touring a lot.
Yeah. I mean, even right now, it's, it used to be in the old days, you would say the phone doesn't stop ringing. Well, the emails and the text messages keep coming in, So right now we're getting ready to work on something for Colombia and South America. I mean, you never know. Every day there's something new that pops up. I mean, they're trying to get us to fly out this weekend to play in Colombia, and that just came in today,
Wow,
so,
man.
There's always stuff going on, and then after New Year, March, we start our next European tour. We'll be back over. We start in England on March 18th, and then we just go across Europe. So we're keeping it really busy.
That's killer, man. That's killer. Can you talk about the lineup of the band right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had pretty much the same lineup for a while. The newest guy is our drummer, Mike Vega, and he's a seasoned veteran. He's been around playing drums for a long time. He's actually the youngest cat in the band, but he's still very seasoned, And then we've got the Harrison brothers, who I've been playing with since the end of 2005, and we released a record with those cats on the guitar and bass in I think, yeah, the beginning of 2006, we released a record called Assassin of the War. And from that point on, we've just been touring and doing more records and just keeping this thing moving. And it's just been an honor because it seems like now, more than ever, the band's bigger than it's ever been. So I guess we're doing something right,
Absolutely. And you know what? Thrash metal has definitely come full circle, and the classic thrash metal bands are still leading the way of the whole genre, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I mean, I think, even with the younger bands coming up, what it has done is those young kids that are those fans of those bands have checked out the older bands, and they're like, wow, this is where it came from, So a lot of it's kind of like doing their homework, doing their history on thrash metal. So sooner or later, they'll end up going back and checking out bands like Hirax and Overkill and Nuclear Assault and bands like that, So it's a good thing, and it kind of has regenerated itself in the last, like, say, 10 years. It's come back, and people are so into it now. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Absolutely, and I think that the strength of it is that so many of these bands are still making albums and touring. You mentioned Death Angel, and they're, again, better than they've ever been.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the bands, are putting out quality records still to this day, so that has helped the whole movement. You've got bands like Testament, their last record was real good. You got the new Exodus record, and there's going to be more to follow. So I think it's just one of those things where the beast it's going to keep growing bigger and bigger.
That's cool. And you guys got plans for a new record for next year.
Yeah.
That's just incredible, man. And, can you talk about, you got any stories from the old days from when you guys were starting out?
Oh, yeah. There's many, but it seems like every time I get asked that question, I come up with something that I had forgotten about because there are so many great stories. There was just an amazing time, and none of us really knew back then what was going to happen. We were just having fun, but I remember times we'd be up in San Francisco when we'd go up there to play, and after the shows, we'd all be at the same house, and you would look around the room, and you'd see Kirk Hammett, you'd see Gary Holt, you'd see guys from, Death Angel, bands like Possessed. We'd all be hanging out at the same houses, and, it was just a big family, and some of that still exists today. A lot of those bands, when we see them on the road, it's just like seeing an old brother, so whenever we run into Exodus, it's always a good time, and same with bands like Testament, and even the bands that we might not have been a part of the same scene, because some of the East Coast bands, that was a different scene, but we went into bands like Overkill and Nuclear Assault. It's always like a big giant family.
Well, you guys have toured probably so many times together.
Yeah, and played festivals together. I remember one year, I think it was 2004, it was like us and Exodus and Testament were all playing at the same festival over in Sweden. And I think that for all of us, it's also just a great thing that we're able to do what we love doing, and we get to travel the world doing it, so.
Oh, absolutely.
That kind of unites us as one as it is, because a lot of us, travel through the same areas. Either we'll be coming through at the same time, or we'll be coming through, and then another band will be coming through. It's just become one of those things. You become better friends because you see each other a lot on the road.
That's cool, man. And you know what? My hats are off to you guys for still, waving the flag and not bending to, some nonsense of popular, what some record producer may say, hey, what you need to do is you need to be selling Pepsi Cola or some nonsense. Seriously, a lot of bands, have taken that route.
Yeah, I hear you. Because we really believe in this music, and it's not just that we play the music, we really live that lifestyle. All of us, listen to these records. We listen to a lot of other bands that, we grew up on, whether it be Thin Lizzy, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Iron Maiden, whatever. It's a big part of our lives, so it's not like we take this thing lightly, and we don't ever want to forget where we came from. I think sometimes when bands start focusing more on the money, music, and we never really think about that. Obviously, you do need money to survive. It's not a free world we live in. If it was, everybody be doing this, But
yeah.
It's more about the music for us, and that's one of those things that we'll always stand by, because it's just the way we are. We don't really have any option to sell out or be a commercial band, because that's not what we want to do.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Well, to be a survivor after all these years, I mean, as sad as it is, there's so many musicians who either lost their fight with alcohol and drugs and all the other stuff that goes along with the fast lane. You guys have stood tall, man, and still waving the flag. And I just say, from a fan, man, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And, I think the thing is that sometimes people get overwhelmed by, the popularity and stuff like that and the fame and all that crap. And you can't really let that happen because you're really, at the end of the day, you're just a human. And the fans are just as important as the bands. So I think as long as you keep that in mind, you'll be all right. If you're playing in a band, just never forget that you're a human and that you're not above anybody. It's great that the fans support the music so much, but they should be treated the same as the musicians.
That's cool, man. Those are wise words right there.
Well, thank you, my friend.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and play some tracks off the Immortal Legacy album. Where can people find you guys online?
Well, we're pretty easy to find. I mean, it's funny to say this, but sometimes when people ask me that question, I just say, why don't you just go on Google and punch in Hirax. But, obviously we're on Facebook, we're on all the sites, even the ones that don't even get used that much anymore, like, say, MySpace, or, ones that do get used a lot, like, say, Reverb Nation. There's, Instagram. Some people call it Instagram, some people call it Webstagram, whatever. But we're on all the networking websites, so if you just punch in our name, we should come up. And, the band's still very much hands-on. We still like hearing from the fans. We write back. And, that's just the way we work. Just like right now, one of the other things I'm doing in the office is I'm getting the package together for a fan of ours that one of his buddies wrote to us telling us that his friend had cancer and that he wasn't doing so well. But he's a really big Hirax fan, so we're going to send him a little care package in Germany. Hopefully it'll make him feel better, and hopefully he'll continue the fight to get better.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's really cool.
Well, it's all about the fans keep the music alive. And the minute you forget that, it's the minute you're doomed. And I'm a fan of music myself, so I always just try to treat the fans the way I want to be treated, and I think that's the best way to do business. It's business, but it's also a big family.
Absolutely.
And they should be treated that way. I mean, that's why I have respect for bands like Iron Maiden, because they've always pretty much stayed true to their fan base, and that's something to be respected.
100%, totally. Well, thanks, Katon, for calling into the show. I definitely appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and spin some tracks here on Brother Chris Violence's Traveling Damnation show here on Metal World Radio.